All right, good evening, everyone. This is meeting number 3. Today is Tuesday, April 9th. It's 2024. I'm Councillor William Riley. I'm going to bring this meeting to order. So just note to members of the public that all cell phones, pagers, or PDAs to be turned off at this time, obviously those who are in attendance. Members of the public who are attending and participating virtually are reminded to keep their microphones muted until they're acknowledged to speak. Additionally, for your information, we do advise that this meeting is being live streamed as well as recorded and will be available on the township website. I'm just going to mention as well that for people who are looking to make comments, that comments can be made from the members of the public for a matter that is on the agenda by advising the chair during the request to address an item on the agenda section of this agenda. The public may also submit written comments for matters that are on an agenda to jpaylove@westlincoln.ca before 4:30 on the day of the meeting. Comments submitted will be considered as public record and will be read into the public record. As I already mentioned, and I'll mention again, that this meeting is being live streamed as well as recorded and will be available on the township website, usually within the next 24 hours. So that brings us to our land acknowledgement statement. The township of West Lincoln, being a part of the Niagara region, is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations such as the Hattaway-Noongar, the Haudenosaunee, and Anishinaabe, including the Megas, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The township of West Lincoln, as part of the regional municipality of Niagara, stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. So at this point, I'm going to look around to see if there's any members of committee that have any pecuniary interest or conflict of interest. Not seeing or hearing any. I'm going to move to our public meeting this evening. And this public meeting is item 4.1, 318 Grassy Road, and it's a site alteration application. And I will move right to that there. So I'm going to read the purpose of this meeting. This is a public meeting to consider a site alteration application submitted by, just inform their names, Sonny and Bobby, to authorize the grading of the site around the new residence property and gradually with the surrounding land in regards to 3118 Grassy Road, file number 3000-001-24. I must state that the site alteration bylaw 2016-41 as amended by bylaw 2017-81, 2018-80, 2019-68, 2020-80, and 2021-92 requires that before approving a site alteration application, council and/or committee must hold at least one public meeting at an accessible facility for the purpose of informing the public in respect to the application. The purpose of this public meeting is to receive comments and answer questions from the public regarding the site alteration application. We stress that at this point, no decision has been made on this application, and any comments received will be taken into account by the Planning, Building, Environmental Committee in their consideration. I will go to my deputy clerk to please advise the methods and dates by which notice of the public meeting was given.
Proper notice was given by way of email circulation to agencies and mail circulation to all residents within 120 meters of the subject property on March 8th, 2024.
Thank you. I'll go to our chief building official, John Bartle, to please explain the purpose and reason for the site alteration application.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you previously mentioned, the purpose of this application is to discuss the site alteration application at 3118 Grassy Road. A brief synopsis of this application thus far is Mr. Gulacha approached township staff in 2023 for the purposes of importing fill to the subject lands. The fill importation process was to adequately accommodate or adequately capture stormwater runoff from the newly proposed single detached dwelling on the property. Mr. Gulacha, throughout the last year, has provided an adequate effort in working with township staff to move this application to a point of public meeting. Mr. Gulacha, to this point, has submitted a multitude of different documents as well as technical information required to bring this application to the public meeting. At this point, Mr. Gulacha has submitted a proposed grading plan, which is currently in front of all the committee members at this time, 2 separate and different source sites for material and soils reports signed off by a professional engineer for each one. He has obtained a building permit and a demolition permit for the existing single detached dwelling that was on the property and the currently in construction dwelling on the property, and a septic design for the subject single detached dwelling. Mr. Galacha has expressed a desire to utilize the remaining 10 acres to the west of the new single detached dwelling for the purposes of agriculture and farming. It is my understanding to this date that Mr. Galacha is going to reach out to the local farming community in an effort to ensure that those lands are used for the purposes of agriculture. Staff are ready to receive comment from this committee moving forward to draft a responsible site alteration agreement, as well as recommendation report for a future planning, building, and environmental committee meeting. Sorry.
No worries, thank you. I'll look at the applicants here. If any of them would like to come up at this point, if there's anything you'd like to address or have us know, I know I was kind of told ahead of time you're more in attendance just if we had questions, but this is your chance. If there's something particular you'd like to actually speak to that you want us to kind of focus our sights on. So if you don't have any comments or questions or statements to make right now, you don't have to do it, so no obligation, but this is your chance. So you have to come up to the microphone, sorry. I do need you to come up to the microphone, and I just need you to state your name and address just for the record, for a clerk to capture it, and then you can proceed.
Sure. My name is Gurcharan Bobby Singh, and that's Sikandar Sunny Galacha. So he's the homeowner. I'm actually building the house.
Okay.
So we also, I'm not sure if John mentioned or not, are placing 2 ponds on the property. And the idea is the bulk of the rainwater that is going to come off of the hardscape is going to be diverted into those ponds. And so that, we will steer away from any of the agricultural lands as much as possible. That's all.
No, that's great. Perfect, all right. So now I'll go to public submissions. I guess we'll go to IT first just to see who do we have virtually with us this evening. I actually don't see any virtual attendees, and so I'll still read this anyways, but just to have that known. So I have to ask that, are there any oral written submissions from anyone present in this meeting, either in person or on Zoom, regarding the site alteration application? I do need to stress that this may be the only public meeting held with respect to this application. Therefore, if any members of the public that are in attendance at this public meeting would like to make comments or provide written comments, they just should do so now. If you are attending virtually or would like to provide comments, you can do so by using one of the 2 options. Again, we don't have anyone virtually, so I'm going to not continue down that path. I will go to members in the gallery. If there's any members of the gallery that would like to speak to this is your chance to speak to it. We only have one other member in the gallery. Do you have anything you'd like to speak to it? Just give them a second there. Perfect. So I do need you to state your name, your address for the record, and then you can make your comments.
I good? You hear me? Okay.
Yes.
It's Jerry Nichols. I own Nichols Ventures, Inc. We are a construction and fill management company. We work alongside with the MOE on many projects for certifying fill under the new 40619 regs. The back section of the property, I live in Guelph. I don't know if you need an address. The back side of the property is all farmland and is accordance to agriculture. Underneath the OMAFRA rule, anytime you're enhancing farmland, that you can do so without a permit and without soil tampering and soil tracking, as long as it comes from virgin farm to virgin farm. So that back section that needs the land brought up with topsoil, will that need to be underneath your permit, or are you only looking for around a certain vicinity?
Okay. So I'll steer that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This permit application is only for the residential section pertaining to the area directly around the house. We have exemptions in our bylaw that permit you to alter farmland to a certain extent in accordance with the OREG 406. So at this time, this application is only for the residential section, the area contained within the silt fence on the diagrams that were provided to committee, and right there.
Yeah.
So no lands to the west of the dwelling are currently a part of this application.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just getting this now. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, so assuming there's no other questions or comments from the public, can we just go back, Kevin, to just make sure no one else has surprised us with it? Nope, nobody else is on there. Perfect, so I'm going to move to members of committee now. So do any members of committee have any oral written submissions on the site alteration application? And again, I do stress this may be your only chance to speak to this, so this is your chance to speak to it, should you wish or need to speak to it. Not seeing or hearing any, I'm going to move forward. So I do have to advise that a technical report is being considered by the committee this evening. Once that committee has made a decision with respect to the site alteration application, and if approved by council, a notice of that approval will be circulated with an appeal period. If you wish to be notified of council's decision, we do ask that you ensure that you reach out to the township to email the deputy clerk, Justin Paylove, at jpaylove@westlincoln.ca. Anyone who is interested in observing council and/or committee discussions about a particular bylaw should not solely rely on mailed notices and thus potentially miss the opportunity to attend applicable meetings. It is suggested that you watch the township's website for the postings of agendas to review the items that will be discussed at council and/or committee meetings. These agendas for the meetings are posted on the township website after 4 p.m. on the Friday prior to the meeting. And additionally, meeting schedules are also posted on the township website for the public to view. If you wish to receive these notices by email, it is suggested that you contact the township clerk to advise of this request and include your email along with your mailing address and phone number. So at this point, I'm going to declare that the public meeting with respect to the site alteration application is concluded at the hour of 6:46 p.m. We will move forward to our regular agenda, but that concludes at least the public portion, or the public meeting portion, sorry. So just hang tight there. Okay.
All right, thanks a lot, guys.
No problem. And you're welcome, we do have to discuss the tech report, but you're also, you certainly don't have to stick around for that, but just so that you're aware, I don't know if there'll be any more questions or not, but that's just the public meeting portion. No problem.
Welcome to our community.
All right, so I'm going to bring ourselves back into this. So I will first make mention that Councillor Bell and Councillor Rayner were unable to attend tonight's meeting, so they send their regrets there. I know our Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble, was a little under the weather today, so out of abundance of caution, he's taken the evening off to recover and to get healthy there. The other thing I wanted to mention just briefly here, everyone, this is our first meeting post the totality solar eclipse that we just had the other day, and I still have my solar eclipse glasses. I just wanted to make a brief mention. I know I probably could do this later in the meeting, but I figured I'd do it now before I forget, that the city of Niagara Falls is actually collecting these. What I recently learned today is that there's an Astronomers Without Borders and organization that goes around and collects these, and what they do is they reuse them, whether they've been used or not. They repurpose them for countries such as, I think it was Africa, Asia, and South America, for areas that will be experiencing eclipse in the future, and some people might not be able to get their hands on them or afford them. So if you have them at home still and you haven't thrown them out and they're in decent shape, they'll take them regardless. They will reassess whether they get thrown in the garbage or if they can be repurposed. So I just want to make that mention. I think that's very wonderful organization, or at least a wonderful thought there. I would never have thought about it. I would have almost pitched them out if I didn't know about it myself until I was reading about it about 6 in the morning here. All right, so moving forward, I'm going to look around committee here to see if there's any changes in orders of items on the agenda. I'm not seeing any. We have no appointments this evening. We literally have nobody in the gallery here to request items on the agenda, but I will go to our IT one last time just to see if anybody's come in. No. Everyone must be just enjoying this beautiful day. We have no consent agenda items, so that brings us to communications. So I have item P1624. It is Smithville PCB site remediation 2022 and 2023 site operation summary report. And we have a recommendation that the correspondence received from Jason Rice, Regional Engineer, West Central Region, regarding Smithville PCB site remediation 2022 and 2023 site operation summary report dated February 12th, 2024 be received for information. So at this point, I believe I will need a mover and a seconder for that. So I got Mayor Ganan and I got Councillor Broderick. Any questions or comments or statements? Not seeing or hearing any, I'll go to our Deputy Clerk to call the question. And that carries. So that moves us now to staff reports, and we have a few. So the first staff report is item P1724. and it's in relation to a technical report, site alteration application, 3118 Grassy Road, file number 3000-001-24, and I'll read that. That recommendation is that tech report PD 2024, titled Technical Report Site Alteration Application for 3118 Grassy Road, Sikander Galusha, file number 3000-001-24, dated April 9th, 2024, be received. And that a recommendation report be provided at a future council and/or committee meeting. So at this point, I'll need a mover and a seconder for that. Got Councillor Trombetta and Councillor Braderick. Any questions or comments? This is your time again. Not seeing or hearing any. I'll go to our deputy clerk to call the question. That should be right in front of you right now. And that carries. Thank you for that. So that brings us to item 10.2. Item number P1824, and it's an information report, PD 19-2024, temporary use agreement registration. And that recommendation is that information report, PD 19-2024, titled Information Report Temporary Use Agreement Registration, dated April 9, 2024, be received for information. So I'll need a mover and seconder for that. I got Mayor Ganan and Councillor Chichuk. Any questions or comments? Not seeing or hearing any. I'll go to our deputy clerk to call the question. And that carries. Thank you for that, everyone. So that brings us to 10.3, which is item P1924, and that is recommendation report PD 21-2024, amendment to the building bylaw 2019-83 regarding building deposits and fees. And its recommendation is that the recommendation report PD 21-2024, title recommendation report amendment to the building bylaw 2019-83 regarding building deposits and fees, dated April 9th, 2024, be received. And that a bylaw to amend bylaw 2019-83, being a bylaw under the Building Code Act respecting construction, demolition, change of use, occupancy permits, transfer permits, inspections, and associated fees, be passed. So I will need a mover and seconder for that one. I have Mayor Ganan and Councillor Chichuk for that. Any questions or comments? Not seeing or hearing any. I'll call the question there. And that carries. Thank you very much for that. So now that brings us to 10.4, item P20-24, and it's a recommendation report, PD 22-2024, new parking of motor vehicles not on highways bylaw and amendment to parking related AMPS bylaw. And the recommendation is that recommendation report PD 22-2024, title recommendation report, new parking of motor vehicles not on highways bylaw and amendment to parking related AMPS bylaw, dated April 9th, 2024, be received. And that a draft bylaw attached as Schedule A being a bylaw to regulate private property parking, be passed, and that a draft bylaw attached to Schedule B to amend a bylaw 2014-67 by adding Schedule G, be passed as well. And I'm gonna need a mover and seconder to get that on the table there. I got Councillor Braderick and Mayor Ganan. Any questions or comments? Not seeing or hearing any. I'm gonna go to our deputy clerk. For those of you at home, we do have a very thorough report before council here, so there's lots of detail that's already covered. And did that come up? Perfect, and that carries. Thank you very much. So that brings us to other business, and which is Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble, who's not in attendance today, but we have the director, our manager of planning, and our CBO in attendance to speak if should there be any questions on his behalf. And we have OLT case number OLT-24-000030 it's regarding area 2173 Regional Road 20, Misra Chaudhary. I apologize, Chaudhary. And it's 2594092 Ontario Inc. It's a verbal update, so actually I will go to Garrett, our manager of planning, to speak to this briefly.
Yes, thank you. Brian asked me to speak on his behalf because he wasn't in a position to do much speaking today. So as you may recall, and you've been, council has been informed before, 2173 Regional Road 20 is a proposed gas station at the corner of St. Anne's Road and Regional Road 20, just south of St. Anne's. It's a smaller, irregular-shaped property, and the owners wish to put a gas station and a little convenience shop on that property, and they needed a number of minor variances, and that went to the Committee of Adjustment late last year. Planning staff provided a favorable recommendation report to the committee, but the Committee of Adjustment, after hearing some comments from some of the neighbors, did vote against the application. The OLT meeting hearing was on March 15th. Staff, together with the applicants and their representatives, came together and offered a settlement, which also came before council. And that settlement essentially suggested that the minor variances be approved, subject to a number of conditions that would be dealt with through the site plan process. So that OLT hearing did occur on March 15th, and a verbal decision was provided by the chair, granting that the minor variances be permitted subject to those conditions that were mutually agreed upon by the applicants and the township. And as it was a verbal decision, the township can proceed on finalizing the site plan, allowing that gas station development to move forward. And so we're currently working with the applicants on that. And out of some good gesture, we've also reached out to the neighbors who did attend to that Committee of Adjustment meeting, who spoke out against it. They were not part of the OLT hearing, but we wanted to ensure that they are informed and that their concerns are still taken into account as this development proceeds. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of committee here have any other questions or comments? Not seeing or hearing any, so there's no vote there because it's just a verbal update. So I'll go to item 11.2, which is item P22, 2024. So I'll look around the horseshoe again to see if any other members of committee have any other business matters of informative nature. Not seeing or hearing any. We have no, I'm assuming we have no new business. That's the next one here. And we have confidential matters, which we don't have this evening. So tonight's been a very brief meeting. I'm going to adjourn the meeting at the hour of 6:57 p.m. and have a great